Hi there, as a part of AgilePoint's version 10 release, we're happy to announce support for Google Gemini. Now, over the course of this video, we'll first show you how to connect to Gemini using an AgilePoint Access Token, and then walk you through the various activities via a sample application. So to get started, we're going to create a Global Access Token. So moving into Manage, you're seeing here Global Access Tokens. Now, bear in mind, this is going to be a globally reusable token that I can reuse across applications and across developers with its own permission framework. We can always create app-level tokens if desired. So to connect into Gemini, let's search for a new access token. You're seeing Gemini here. Now, as far as the configuration is concerned, we would provide a name, a description, and the only piece that we'll need from the Gemini side is the API key. So if you're creating this for the first time, go ahead and plug in your API key and test the connection. Now towards the bottom, you're seeing here a drop-down list where I can select various models. This is a really handy feature from an ongoing manageability perspective as it centralizes model selection at the access token level and would remove the need to manually update models across a number of applications and a number of different process activities. Though I do have the option to specify a given model for a type of app. So now that we know how to connect into Gemini, let's walk through the various activities and gain some familiarity with our sample application. Okay, so we'll cover our sample application in just a moment, but first I'd like to walk through the various activities available in the Gemini activity group. So as you're seeing here, we have two activities. One is to leverage a computer vision model to analyze an image. And the second is chat completion, which you're going to see here as a part of our sample app. Now, this is sort of the chat experience you might have had previously with ChatGPT, Claude, or in fact Gemini. And let's go ahead and walk through the application. So as you're seeing here, the application itself is called Document Intelligence. And what this essentially does is it leverages a number of Gemini agents to compare key differences between two versions of an agreement and gives us various mechanisms to harmonize data across a number of downstream systems. So first, we have a classification agent from Gemini in charge of understanding the document type that's been submitted for processing, and as such, will activate the corresponding process branch. So here, we have an agent with specialized skills to understand and extract details from a statement of work, and similarly here from a license agreement perspective. So let's walk through the configuration of each. So starting with our classification agent, as you can see here, I've selected how I'm connecting into Gemini, and a number of different models that I can select here from the drop-down list. Now earlier when we talked about centralizing model selection at the access token level, I have that option here where I can simply select the model that's been prescribed at the access token. Down below are a few initial model parameters, but what I'd like to do next is walk through the various system instructions. If you're coming at this from a pure prompt engineering background, the structure of this activity is going to look a little bit different. Rather than a blob of freeform text, what you're seeing here are different tabs where I can configure things like goals, skills, instructions, and outputs. So a much more bounded experience, right? Really enabling us to ensure that our prompt or our system instruction is correct, right? And bringing a bounded experience that many enterprises will need in relying on AI at the enterprise level. So as you can see here, the goals and mission are to classify the text into one of a few different document types. For our purposes, we'll be looking at statements of work and license agreements. Various skills that pertain to understanding these document types. So understanding different types of language, contractual, legal, service-related, and to detect things that you might see in those different types of documents. For instance, a statement of work will have scope. A license agreement will have licensing terms. And to make a deterministic classification that will drive how our automation executes in the subsequent steps. The input is going to be the entire document text itself, various instructions that pertain to the different document types. In my case here, no quality verification. And the output here is going to be a classification. What type of document is it so that we can activate the appropriate branch in our process? Now, in the case of Gemini, we do have safety settings here. You're seeing various categories, selections that can be made. We talked earlier about how the request mapping is going to be the entire document text. And the response, as you're seeing here, is that category, which I've stored in an AgilePoint variable. And again, will drive the different process branches that are activated. All right, so that was our classification agent. Let's take a look at some of our sub-agents here. The configuration is very similar, only tuned for, say, a statement of work versus a license agreement. So I won't go through both of them, but let's take a look at our license agent. So again, what this agent is doing is extracting specific details from a licensing agreement to facilitate that comparison that we talked about earlier. So again, I've connected into Gemini, selected the model, initial model parameters, but all of the action is going to take place here under system instructions. So in this case here, the goals and mission are to extract structured metadata from a license agreement to facilitate analysis. Various skills: document parsing, identification of key clauses, JSON formatting. Here again, the input is going to be the entire agreement text itself. And then various instructions. As you're seeing here, from a document parsing, key data extraction, various rules and validation checks. Again, no quality verification in this case. And the output here, again, going to be a JSON structure, and I have prescribed the schema. Safety settings. The request, again, is going to be that entire document. And the response here being stored in a variable. Okay, now as you're seeing, for each of these branches, both the statement of work as well as the license agreement, I do have a corresponding subprocess. So here you're seeing the subprocess for our license agent. So this will be invoked when the document type is equal to a license agreement. Okay, so once our license agreement has completed its extraction, we're going to load that into our process model and then run a comparison. Right? So here, what we're going to do is extract our current understanding of the prior agreement based on what's stored in a downstream system, in this case, Salesforce. And then we'll bring a human into the loop where we can sort of do a side-by-side comparison. What are the details of the customer as it is today in our system of record? And what are the details extracted from that newly executed agreement so that we can facilitate that comparison? Then here you're seeing other steps to harmonize the data across all of my downstream systems of record. Okay, now just quickly, I want to touch on the statement of work subprocess. Very similar here. Again, all of the same steps will be taken in the event the document is of type statement of work. Okay, so now that we understand the application, let's go ahead and run it. So here I have my interface where I can route a new document for processing. And in the first scenario, what I'd like to do is attach a license agreement. So that document is now being stored in my repository. We'll extract the details into text, and our agents can then leverage that over the course of the process. Okay, so our process has kicked off. We can go ahead and track it now in real time. Okay, so the document has been submitted. We've converted that document into text, and our classification agent has correctly identified that this is of type license agreement. And in just a second, we'll see our subprocess activate. Okay, so taking a look at our subprocess, we've extracted the details from the agreement. We've pulled our current understanding from our customer system of record. And now we have a human task where we can validate the differences via side-by-side comparison. Okay, so as you're seeing here, Gemini has done a great job of understanding key details about this agreement, things like the account record this agreement pertains to, licensor versus licensee details. But as I mentioned, we really want to show that side-by-side comparison where the right-hand column is our current understanding of this customer based on what's stored in our system of record, and the left-hand column being the newly extracted details from that agreement. Okay, so let's move over to the Actions tab where we can determine how best to harmonize the data. Based on what we've seen, there are key discrepancies between the new agreement and what we'd stored previously. So the best approach might be a metadata update, where we simply take the details from that agreement and push it over to downstream systems. But we can always trigger a new contracts management flow. Just by uploading a new contract, that might kick off another process. Now in my case, I'm just going to select no change. So with that, we have run through one instance of this application. Let's go ahead and run it once more with the statement of work track. Okay, so I'm uploading my statement of work. And let's go ahead and track it. All right, so as you're seeing here, the classification agent has determined this is a statement of work. And again, we're going to see a very similar process where once this extract is complete, we'll see our subprocess activate and we can compare via human task. Okay, so as you're seeing here, my human task experience is showing a few key differences between the two documents. So again, I can always move over to the Actions tab and determine how best to harmonize the data. Okay, so with that, that's going to conclude the content for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this gives you a better understanding of how to connect into Gemini and use the various inline process activities via that sample application.